What if I told you that the most terrifying god in human history was never really a god at all? What if the bronze idol that supposedly devoured children was actually something far more sinister? A mirror reflecting humanity's darkest impulses back at us. Before we dive into this chilling tale, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it there? I love connecting with viewers across the globe as we uncover these ancient mysteries together. In the flickering light of ancient oil lamps, scribes bent over papyrus and clay tablets, recording the deeds of gods. Every deity had their tale. Creation myths, love affairs, battles for supremacy. But one name appeared differently in these texts. Moloch. No origin story. No temples bearing his name. No priests singing his praises. Yet somehow this absence made him more terrifying than any god with 1,000 stories. Picture the ancient scholars puzzling over fragmentary texts, finding only 3 Hebrew letters, M, L, K, scattered like breadcrumbs through forbidden passages. No vowels, no context, just a skeleton of consonants that would haunt humanity for millennia. Centuries passed. In dimly lit scriptoriums, Jewish scholars called the Masoretes faced a decision that would shape history. They held the power to give voice to the voiceless letters M, L, K. They could have chosen Melech, meaning king. They could have chosen Molech, a ritual offering. Instead, they made a deliberate, damning choice. They vocalized it as Molech, a word that echoed Bosheth, meaning shame. With ink and intention, they transformed a ritual term into a name dripping with disgrace. A god was born not from worship, but from condemnation. Just outside ancient Jerusalem lay a place that would become synonymous with horror, the Valley of Hinnom. Here, according to biblical accounts, children were passed through the fire to Moloch. Imagine the valley at dusk, smoke rising from stone altars, the distant sound of drums, some say beaten to drown out screams. Archaeological evidence suggests these weren't metaphorical flames. Small burial urns filled with cremated infant remains tell a story too grim for symbolism. This wasn't just sacrifice. This was the systematic destruction of what should have been untouchable. Ancient texts describe a bronze statue with outstretched arms and a fire-filled belly. Parents would place their children into those burning arms while drums thundered and priests chanted. But here's what makes Moloch truly terrifying. He wasn't demanding sacrifice out of divine hunger. He was exposing human desperation. In times of famine, war, or drought, people would convince themselves that giving up their most precious possessions could save what remained. The bronze god didn't create monsters. He revealed them. To understand Moloch's horror, you must understand what he stood against. The Hebrew covenant with Yahweh was built on protecting the innocent, the orphan, the vulnerable. Children were sacred, not fuel. Moloch inverted everything. Where Yahweh demanded justice, Moloch demanded ash. Where Yahweh offered life, Moloch consumed it. He wasn't just another foreign god. He was the anti-covenant, the negation of everything the Israelites held sacred. The biblical condemnations weren't just religious law. They were humanity's desperate attempt to draw a line in the sand. As monotheism solidified and the old gods faded, Moloch underwent a transformation. In early Jewish apocalyptic literature, he shed his divine status and emerged as something darker, a demon, a prince of hell. Christian writers embraced this reclassification. In their cosmology, Moloch became a commander of torment, a spirit of cruel compulsion. The god of sacrifice became the demon of forced devotion. This wasn't just theological evolution. It was humanity's way of saying, this impulse exists, but we will not worship it. In 1667, John Milton gave Moloch his most enduring literary incarnation in Paradise Lost. Here, among the fallen angels in Pandemonium, Moloch rises as the horrid king, besmeared with blood of human sacrifice. While other demons plot and scheme, Moloch demands total war against heaven. No subtlety, no corruption, just pure, violent action, even if it ends in complete annihilation. Milton's Moloch became more than a character. He became a philosophy, the embodiment of violence for violence's sake, action without wisdom. Fast forward to 1955. Poet Allen Ginsberg unleashed Howl upon America, giving Moloch a new face. Moloch, whose mind is pure machinery. Moloch, whose blood is running money. In Ginsberg's vision, Moloch wasn't ancient history. He was the skyscraper blocking out the sky, the factory consuming souls, the military-industrial complex turning children into statistics. The bronze statue had become a corporate logo. Writer Scott Alexander refined this modern interpretation in his essay, Meditations on Moloch. Here, Moloch became the name for coordination problems, situations where rational individual choices led to collective disaster. Nations stockpile weapons not because they want war, but because they fear being outgunned. Companies destroy the environment not from malice, but because competitors would do it faster. Moloch is the trap we build together, one logical decision at a time. In Northern California's Bohemian Grove, the world's most powerful figures gather annually for a ritual called the cremation of care. Before a 40-foot stone owl, they burn an effigy while chanting about casting off their burdens. They call it theatre, but look closer. A stone idol, fire at its feet, the deliberate destruction of empathy by the elite. The imagery speaks louder than any denial. Moloch doesn't need his name spoken. The ritual logic remains the same. Today's Moloch doesn't demand children thrown into flames. He asks for something subtler but no less devastating. Their future. Climate change for profit. Mental health for productivity. Privacy for convenience. Educational funding for tax cuts. We sacrifice what our children need for what we want now. Different altars. Same transaction. What makes Moloch so terrifying isn't his brutality, it's his rationality. He doesn't deceive or hide. He presents clear transactions. Sacrifice what you love most, and I'll give you power. Every boardroom decision that trades long-term sustainability for quarterly profits, every policy that benefits today at tomorrow's expense, these are modern child sacrifices, dressed in business suits and justified by spreadsheets. Walk through any modern city and listen. The drums are still beating, not to drown out screams, but to drown out thinking. Constant connectivity, perpetual productivity, endless consumption. We've automated the sacrifice. Our children grow up in systems designed to extract their attention, their data, their dreams. We tell ourselves it's progress while feeding them into algorithmic fires. Moloch's greatest evolution is his invisibility. He's no longer a bronze statue you can see and reject. He's built into the infrastructure of modern life, the economic systems that demand infinite growth on a finite planet, the social media algorithms that harvest depression for engagement. He doesn't need believers anymore. He just needs participants. Here's the truth that makes Moloch eternally relevant. He represents a choice that never goes away. Every generation faces the temptation to sacrifice the vulnerable for immediate gain. The ancient Israelites drew their line with laws carved in stone. We must draw ours with every decision we make. When we choose long-term thinking over short-term profit, when we protect the powerless instead of empowering the ruthless, when we choose care over efficiency, we reject Moloch's bargain. The bronze god was never really about the past. He was always about now, about us, about the question that haunts every human heart. What would you sacrifice to get what you want? And in that question, in that choice, Moloch lives forever, not as a god to be worshipped, but as a warning to be heeded. The drums are still beating. The only question is, are we listening to them, or are we finally ready to make them stop?